Hello, welcome back to the Find Your Path Mission YouTube channel and podcast. I am super excited to share this next interview with you. Her name is Susy Cervantes and she is at the Mission Orphanage and School. She was our internship director, so we got to spend a lot of time with her, and I was just so inspired by her love for people, the love that everyone else had for her at the orphanage and at the school. It was evident that they really respected her, and as I got to know her, I saw why. This interview, I just walked away feeling so excited to share it with you, because the stories she shares, the experiences she's had, are just really powerful, really important for us to hear and learn about, I think. She came to the mission as a little girl with her siblings, and she'll share a little bit about that, about some of the stories that have happened and that she's learned from, and some of the advice she has for us as we're trying to figure out what we want or what we can do to make this world a better place, and how we can find our path. So I can't wait for you to hear from her. And so here is Susy.
So I came here in 2007, and that's because I was in a different orphanage before coming to the mission with all my siblings. Like there's like 6 of us. We just came here, and that we basically arrived because of like social services, like DIV, and we just landed in here. And crazy story, like short one, it's like the founders of this place knew my mom because she was also in this orphanage.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
And so she like was here for like a year or so, like not a long time. And then they were like, oh, we know this family, so they just like got us in here. And that's how we ended up here. And that was like, 2007.
Okay. And were you, at the time, grateful to be here, or what was that feeling like? What were your first impressions, and like how did you feel about coming?
I honestly was like not grateful. Just because, like when you're a kid and they're moving you from place to place like weekly, like there's a point where you're just tired and exhausted, and like everything in you is like drained. And it was like I was feeling so responsible for all my brothers that I was just like, okay, like when are we gonna get to that place that it's gonna feel like home, like safe, like loved, even though I didn't know what the concept of that really was, because I only saw it in movies, like when they paint that movie, like, oh, the whole family is sitting at the table eating breakfast, eating pancakes, like that's the idea that they sell in movies. I'm like, oh, that's what I want for all of us. And so that's what I was like looking for. And when I actually got here, I was like, I'm pretty sure this is just one more place we're gonna spend 1 week, and then they're gonna place us a different place. But then like a few months later, like during Christmas season, because I arrived in September, like it took me like 3 months to actually realize like, oh, like this is it. It wasn't just a week. Like it wasn't just like a random visit. And then I started like putting my guard down and like actually letting people in, and like, oh, like you're not charging me for the food that I'm eating, or the place that I'm sleeping in, or the clothes that you're giving me. And I was like, okay, that's when thankfulness like came. And I let my guard down, and I'm like, okay, I think it's it. And like, like start grabbing like the kid, like I was a teenager, like a pre-teenager. I guess I was 12. So I was actually turning into be like a teenager. So I was like letting my kid side on the side, which I actually like was always like responsible. And so I was like, oh, I can actually have fun, play around, go on a bike ride, like all these things. And I started doing it here because I was like, my brothers don't need to be protected because they already are just by being here. So that's like, it took me like 3 months to actually be like, okay, this is it.
That's awesome. And do you feel like as kids, when they come in, like why did they move you guys so much?
It was basically because the orphanage that we were in only wanted like certain amount of kids and little ones. And so we were like the oldest kids. I was the oldest one in the other orphanage. I was 12. And I was graduating in 6th grade that year actually, and my family was the biggest one. So they were like, oh, it's easy to move the whole family together. And so when we were going from place to place for like every week, it was because the places that we were in, the families were like, no, there are too many, and they were like wanting to put us in different places, all of us,
like separate you.
Yeah, and I was like, that's a lot. And I was like honestly super grateful that they heard a 12-year-old girl like saying like we actually want to be together. And I was like grateful that the lawyer actually said like, okay, yes, like we can do that.
Find a place.
Yeah, and the mission happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's sweet. What were your first impressions like of the home here, or like when you walked in?
Well, first of all, I walked in this office, and I thought it was huge.
Okay.
And there was like a lot of people like leaving campus at the time when we arrived, because it was like the time Baker would leave. So I was like, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of things happening, like
busy.
We're just gonna stick right here. But then when they drove us up to the house, first we dropped my baby brother in one house, and I was like, are they gonna separate us? And they're like, yes, but we're all together, like we live together, we eat together. They're just sleeping in different houses. I'm like, okay. So they put my baby brother in one house, and then my other brother in a different house, and then all of the girls in one house. And then when we walk in the house, girls, it was like huge living room, TV's on, the girls are dancing, and there's like the table. And then they go, one of the big girls that was my roommate, she was like, oh, here, I want to show you a room. And she actually like investigated what my favorite color was, and back then it was pink.
Oh, sweet.
And so she literally grabbed like papel crepe, how do you say that? Like I don't know.
Crepe paper?
It was like paper, and you put it on the fan and the light bulb, and then the whole color turns that color.
Yeah.
So she did that, and she was like so excited. My blankets were like pink, and I was like, that's my favorite color. And she's like, oh, that's so good. Like I literally just like make it for you, like to welcome you. I'm like, thank you. So I went into the top bunk bed, because we were sleeping in bunk beds, and it was just like, the first impression was like, oh, they're actually like ready for us, you know. But I still, like, my guard was up. Like I was like, don't get too excited, don't get like your hopes up, just wait for a minute. But I still, like, you get excited. Like I was excited for them, like, oh, it's a pink room, like your favorite color, you know.
Yeah.
And then we go to dinner, and it's like the whole table was like really long, and everybody's sitting down, like talking, everybody knows each other like normal. And I'm like, this is like the movies. You know, like everybody's eating together, everybody's sitting together talking. And I'm like, okay. And everything inside of me started feeling like the excitement. But it's still like I had like a inside battle of like, Susy, just like don't get too like excited, you know. But I couldn't hold it inside, so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna enjoy it, you know. Even if it lasts or not, I'm just gonna enjoy it. I saw my brothers, like they were like playing around, and they didn't even care about anything. They were just like happy to be there, and I'm like, oh, okay. And it was just like so much like open arms, come here, you know. It was really good.
That's beautiful. And then, so as you got older here, I know like when the kids turn 18, they kind of have a choice, right? Like, do we stay here? Do we go somewhere else? Like, what kind of started guiding you? Like, I'm guessing you started getting responsibilities as you became a teenager. Like, how did you start to decide I want to stay longer?
One of the responsibilities that I had was like, you know, like we all have chores in the mornings and stuff, but in the afternoons, like everybody is resting, but I wanted to be involved in more. So one of my persons that I admire a lot, she was running the evangelism trailer. So I was like, I want to do that. So I started like every Tuesday, like sometimes we will be like more than once a week. So we will like go out in the ministry and like take outreach, and you know, like the evangelism trailer, yeah, we set up the chairs and it's like a party in the streets. So that's like something I really enjoyed, and I was like, oh, I can do this. And then like we started doing like cleaning the streets like on a different day. So I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, I want to do this. So everything on me just got and started like involved, and I started speaking more like the language. So they were like, oh, Susie can translate for you. Susie can translate for you. I'm like, and sometimes, to be honest, I will like make things up because I didn't understand. But I feel like that's how I learned. I was like, okay, he says that Jesus loves you. Even though that's not what you're saying, I think this is what the goal is.
Yeah.
But I learned at the end, and I now it's like one of my jobs now here at the mission, like to translate.
Yeah.
But I feel like the embracement of like, oh, Susie can do this. Susie got this. Like, oh, if someone can like lead this, it will be Susie, you know. But at the same time, it was like so many like moments in family that I was like, I want this. Like, this is what I want. And honestly, like, people will say like, I can be making millions out there, like making more money and stuff, and like you could be more successful at that area. But I'm like, yeah, but this is like my foundation, and it's okay if like people leave and come back or don't come back. But like inside of me, this is like, when I was little, I did like this dream board, and I started cutting like these things from out of magazines, and it was like a girl sitting under a tree, and then it had like a guitar, and it had like a graduation thing. How do you call those?
The cap, the graduation cap.
Yeah. And then it had like a building with people sitting down and someone speaking on stage, and then it had like music notes around, books, and I think little kids. And I did that a year later after I arrived here. So I was like 13. I was like getting into junior high, and I did that, and I still have it actually. I still have it in one of my boxes, and I was like, this is like the thing that I want, like not just now, like as a 13-year-old, like I'm dreaming for the future. And so as I'm getting older, like I'm realizing like all of this is here. And like the dream, like when they say, what are you dreaming of? And I'm like, I feel like I've been walking in my dreams since I was like 13, because that's when like I started grabbing like hold of dreams, like, oh gosh. Because when you are like a little kid and you're so responsible for like your siblings and stuff, like I honestly didn't know I could dream. And when I was doing that, like the dream board, and I'm like, I can, like, I think I'm gonna be this person when I grow up. Even though like I have like no kids of my own, but I have like my nieces and my nephews and all the kids in daycare and like the kids in the orphanage, and they're just like screaming, Susie, Susie, Susie. And I'm like, oh, and sometimes I even close my eyes and I feel like people's calling my name. I'm like, okay, that's not me. But I just get so excited because I'm like, I've been walking in these dreams, and sometimes I just stop, like on Thursday when we were at the daycare and everybody's throwing the balloons and all the kids are running around, and I'm like, I've been like, this is the dream, like this is what Susie, like being 13 years old, dreamed of, and now I just get to take a step back and enjoy it, you know. And it might look like different in so many places, but this is like what got me into like saying yes over and over every day to family and to like the dreams that I have with God and stuff like that. So I was just like super excited for that. And so that's one of the main reasons, like you turn 18, you can go to college and do all of things, but at the same time I was like, yeah, but I want to do it with family, and I feel like family, it's like here. And so, and yeah, like I can go, I feel like now I can go to another place and still have like this family. But I just know, like, being in the place, like, I still want to be here, you know? Like, I just want to see more kids growing up and doing, like, going to culinary school, going to art school, or going to dance school, and, like, all these things that the kids have dreams of. And I'm like, I'm just so excited, like, everything inside of me gets the hope, and I'm like, I get so excited to see you be walking, like, in your dreams.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that so much. So as you develop this relationship with God through this time, because you're obviously very close to Him, what do you have any experiences that kind of helped you see how He saw you, or how He saw your path? Like you were saying, your journey board, or where you had your dreams. Where was he in that? Like as you started going through that life.
I actually like didn't know that God existed. Honestly, like I had like this vision of like mighty, powerful God, like you know how they painted in churches, like He's crucified in the cross and all of that, and that's it. Like that's all you get. But having a relationship with God, I learned that when I was here, like, and it might sound weird, but I was one night I was like so like angry and sad with the girls in my house. You know, as roommates, we always fight and have like disagreements. But that night, I was like next level upset, and I just went like, God, seriously, like, I need to know like, if you're my dad because this doesn't feel like a good vibe or anything. And then literally, like, I heard God's voice saying like loudly, like, yes. And like he said it in Spanish. He said, yes, I'm the only one. And I literally jumped out of my bed, went to the house mom room, and I was like, did you hear that? And she's like, what? And I said, I heard something. I heard someone talking outside. And she's like, what? So we look outside, we like it's dark, you know, and there's nothing. And I'm like, okay. Then I go to bed again, and I have this like dream, like literally I'm walking in like a green field, and I'm sitting, and then I see someone approaching me, and then it's like this person is giving me this gift, and then I open the gift, and it's a crown of flowers. And then I can't see the face, but it's like the person is just like saying like put it on, like okay, put it on. And then out of nowhere I'm like in the swings, like I'm just going up and down. And then I woke up, I wrote the whole dream down, and then I don't remember who was this, but it was like someone on campus had said, Susy, that was Jesus. Like he wanted to remind you that he is your dad, that he is with you, that he is for you. And I'm like, okay. Like nothing in that moment make any sense, because like I always have dreams, but you know there's like dreams that make you feel like comfort.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. And then I started like telling people like I can hear like a voice inside my head, and sometimes it's like outside my head, like audible. And then we started learning about God's language and the way that he communicates with you, and all the prophetic and like all of this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Like I can see this, I hear this, you know, like. And then someone was praying for me one time, and they grabbed my hands, and they're like, Susy, your hands are like healing hands. And I'm like, what does that mean? You know? And they're like, well, just go pray for people, and your hands are healing hands. And I'm like, okay. And I was like 15.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really got it. But then like when we started like praying for healings and stuff, and I started praying for people, and I started seeing results, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is scary. But it's so exciting. But at the same time, I was like so excited to see more of God. Because I don't know if you saw my personal video, I said like, if there is a God, like please take me, and like all of us, like just take us. And that was like the first time like I actually saw an answer, because like literally like a few, like I don't know, I think it was like a month or so, like we were in a truck driving to leave.
This is when you were wanting to leave your home where you were living. You have
Yeah.
to be able to go from there.
And that was like literally the first time like me seeing God. But I didn't realize that until like years later. Like I didn't saw it like, oh yeah, this is God taking us to a safe place, like this is God like keeping us. I just saw like, okay, finally, like we're out of here. But later I was like, he's being present, and I didn't notice, like, and has his like protection over all of us, and I wasn't even aware, because I was so like tense, and my guard was up, and my like, you're not gonna tell me what to do, like I know what to do, like all of these were like like tension in me.
Mm-hmm.
But once I put it down, like I was like, oh, like I hear God's voice, I feel him, like I see things, like I have dreams, and I'm not crazy. You know, like it just makes me feel so connected to him. And when I like talk to the youth, I always go like, when I don't want to teach you a religion, like I want to teach you a relationship. And if the goal is for you to have your own experience and not to know like just memorize something out of the Bible, but to actually connect and have your own experience, like build up your own relationship with God, that would be amazing. And then sometimes when they come to me and they have like their notes and they're like, I saw this and I experienced this, I'm like, yes, keep going for more, you know, because I can tell everyone my experience, but if they have and then they're building their own connection with God and relationship, then that's the goal at the end of my day. Like I'm like, I don't want you to feel what I felt, or I don't want you to see what I see, but I want you to see what you want to see with God, like what God wants to show you, and like have your own connection. That's the beautiful part about like discovering God. So I actually feel like I started doing that when I was like 13, 14, and then when I was 15, I just started like doing it more. And then I actually did school missions here.
Oh, okay.
I
For
did
all
like
3 years?
Oh,
wow.
and I just like, and that in those 3 years I actually was like, oh, I feel so connected to God that I'm like basically like so in love of like this, like I want more, you know. And the fact that every encounter, every experience was like new and different, like it just made me feel more like, I don't know what the right word is, but connected. I think it would be like discovering more of him made me feel like, oh, I can do this more, like I just want to know more. And you know when you're doing like treasure hunts and you found one and you get like so excited and you feel that you're one step closer to it, like I feel that that was my relationship with God. Like it was just like a treasure hunt, like continually like hunting him down until like I was like sitting in like one service and I was literally like not in my body but with him. And I'm like, I feel like I'm going like next levels, and every time it's like new and beautiful and in like so lovely. Like it's just, I don't know, I would just call it magic.
So
But I just, that's my favorite part about having encounters with God, like sharing them and having people like, oh, I can do that too. Like I can have that connection, that relationship with God that will take me to discover him more. I want it, you know.
That's so beautiful. So if there's people listening, they're like, I want that. I want to know my path. I want to know my walk with God. I want that relationship. Like, what would you say that where could they start, or what could they do to get to that place where they can have more encounters with him?
I will say to first like find a spot that makes you feel comfortable. For me, when I was living in the orphanage, my spot was like my bed, and then it became like a tree outside, and then it became like swings, and then like when I was able to walk around like outside of my area, like I was able to go find like more quiet spaces. But it was like technically like being intentional and on seeking him and finding your place. Like we call like secret place, like go to the secret place with God. And if you find your spot like that makes you feel like I can breathe here, like I feel relaxed, I feel peaceful, like then that's your spot. And then like just open up your mind, like relax your body, and like literally go like literally pray out loud, like Jesus, like I just want to see you, like I want to encounter you, like I'm making space for you. Like literally saying those things out loud will actually open up the yourself to receive what he has for you in the moment. And sometimes it's like even I could be driving in the car and I could be like Jesus, where are you? Like literally I can just ask that, and he could be like, I'm sitting right here, or like, I'm like driving with you, or I'm singing this song with you, you know, like things like that, or and like being aware of his presence, because he's like how do you say this?
Omniscient.
Omnipresent.
Omnipresent.
Yeah, he's like literally everywhere, and I love asking this God to God, like, where are you? And he will literally tell me or show me or make me feel something, and it's like, oh, I feel the comfort, and every time like I wanna like have an encounter with him, I literally like make the place like I don't know, like when you're setting up your house for a party and you're just like, oh, do I have the cups? Do I have the plates? Do I have the forks? It's like the same thing with God. Like, it's my house clean. It's like, it's my body ready to receive. Like, I honestly, like, Friday mornings is like my morning routine, like, relaxed routine. Like, I'm just gonna clean up my whole house and then have like quiet time with me and make the space for it. You know, like, if that means vacuuming or like dusting off something, like it could be like you could do it physically and spiritually, and just set yourself up for like what is gonna happen today. And like it's not just like on Fridays, but like Fridays is like slow morning. Like I can take up to like from 7 a.m. to like noon doing it, and it's different because I can take my own time, and during the week it could be like 30 minutes, like, oh, I'm gonna take 30 minutes today and I'm gonna literally go to Jesus and be like, what do you have for me today? Or like, let's just see like, what do you want to take me today, or what do you have like for the people today, and stuff like that. Or I'm just gonna pray, you know, like simple prayers, like thankfulness always, like one of our pastors always says, like, thankfulness are the gates for like to encounter Jesus more. And we always start with thankfulness, like, thank you for this, thank you for that, and the list goes on and on and on. And you just like open up yourself for like, what is it, like, I don't know, it's just finding the place. I think that would be the right thing, finding the place and setting up yourself like for success.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You said that so beautifully. It inspires me to want to go find that place more often. That's so good. Okay, and then have you seen, as you've led people through this and shared these testimonies with them, do you have any examples, or can you think of any stories of like kids that you've seen transform, like as they've gone here, and some of the things you've seen happen in them?
Like like encounters with Jesus and stuff like that?
Yeah, as you've seen success, I guess, in this work.
I saw a couple years ago one of my students that actually jumped into school missions. She came to me and was like, Susy, I see black. And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, every time we go to Devos and they ask us to lift up our hands, like I do it. And every time we do activities of like, do you see something or you hear God? And I hear nothing and I see nothing. I'm like, okay, well, let's practice. And you know, like being so intentional with her, like at the end, she was prophesying for people, praying for people. Like she even had like encounters, and she actually is in Romania right now doing the same thing with the little kids. And that would be like success, you know, like not sending her to the other side of the world, but just having her teach other kids what her experience was. I will say that was success. And then like one of the kids, I feel like I said this before, like he wanted to have a restaurant with his parents, and it's totally different, but he graduated high school and he didn't go to school missions, he didn't go to college, but he said really clear and loudly, like, I want to have a restaurant with my parents. And I'm like, go for it. What do you need? And then he started doing like tamales with his family. And then we do like our Christmas party every year on campus, and we like our traditional dish is tamales.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I know someone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I call him and call his dad and mom, and I'm like, hey, can you make 300 tamales for this day? And they're like, what? And I'm like, yes, we need 300. And they're like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we'll pay you. This is like for the kids. We just want to make it special. And every year since then, we just know where to go.
Mm-hmm.
And now they deliver food, and they're like getting like every time like one step closer to their restaurant. And I'm like, anything I can do to help. Like, I want to be your biggest cheerleader. Like, I will be like your biggest champion,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be like cheerleader for you, like backing you up in however I can. And one of my students, it's like running a youth camp now, and she told me like, hey Sus, would you like to come and speak at the youth camp? And I'm like, what, you're leading the youth group now? She's like, yes, my pastor thought I could do it. He said like I learned really good at the mission, and then I'm doing this and I'm doing all the things that you taught me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And I was like, I think 2018 I went to the camp, and I was teaching like the youth group, and I saw her leading like all this like massive like group of teenagers. And I go to her and I'm like, you know that you're doing a really good job just because you lift up your voice and they see and they follow you. And she just started crying, and I'm like, you're doing it. She said, I just don't believe it. And I'm like, well, girl, look around you. See, they're following you, and they like actually look up to you, and that's like your success right there. And she's like, oh my gosh. Like, I wasn't actually looking at it that way. Like, I was more frustrated about getting them here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, but you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're actually here. They're having a fun time. They're enjoying themselves. Look at it. And then I just like show her what I do. Like, take a step back and just look.
Mm-hmm.
And she did, and she was like super grateful. She said, I couldn't do this without any of like the mission people. And I'm like, yes, you're doing it. Look at you. And it's just like different people like having different styles of success, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I want to sing. I want to lead people. I want to have a restaurant. I want to teach kids. Like, everyone in a different place, like, it's just having like their own success, because they're like walking in the dream that they had one day, and now they're actually doing it. And I'm like, that's your success.
Oh, that's beautiful. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, and then just the last question is about this problem of orphanages and orphans, and so much, you know, how big do you see that as being here, and like, what's the root cause that you've noticed from your experience?
The root of it, I honestly, like, I don't blame anyone. Like, I don't want to point the finger at anyone. But it's just like mostly like, I would say in my experience, it was the lack of knowledge. I think like I didn't have a figure of a parent for me in my life. Like, he decided just to not be a part of anything, and my mom just decided to do the easy thing, which was like, I don't know, nobody wants to give me a job, then I'll do whatever it takes to bring food to the table. And sometimes as parents, like I put myself in their position, you know, and I'm like, they think they know what's best in the moment, and they think they're doing their best. And sometimes like we will get frustrated for small situations, and I picture like my mom trying to figure out how to feed like 6 kids, and whatever she had to do it wasn't like sometimes like the best decisions. And I feel like sometimes she would just get so stuck and frustrated that she will react on it. And sometimes it will become abusive. Sometimes it will be like disappearing for days. Sometimes it will be like for me, like when would she sell me for sex, or like, oh, let's go to sell these things, or things like that, you know, like, and the desperation that they found themselves. Like, sometimes they didn't, like, my mom didn't notice, like, oh, my kids are also paying the consequences of my decisions. And I feel like sometimes, like, she was so lost, she didn't have someone to help her, that she didn't notice how big the consequence was going to be for her 6 kids. And now looking back into that, I'm like, I know that she wasn't like the golden star mom to have like all these beautiful things for her kids, but she was trying, you know. And at the end, like, we were like literally so poor. We sometimes we didn't have things to eat for days, and she wasn't even in the house, and I would be like taking care of my brothers. But in her desperation of trying, she literally lost track of time, days, kids, people, and she literally paid the consequences later for like not having us with her. And I feel like sometimes like society around us paint this beautiful picture of, oh yeah, we are helping these families, we're giving these like groceries, bags, and that will change a lifetime. But actually, like, I feel like when someone feels challenged to change is when you connect heart to heart with them. And that's what we do, connection, you know, when we go to people's houses. Like, we see transformation in people's houses when we actually have a heart to heart connection. And when we actually build a family care program for the kids that coming in and out of the community, it was with the intention of like reducing the numbers in orphanages. And I don't want to lie about it. So I actually have the number because I don't even know how to say it in English. But there's 113 orphanages only here in Baja, like Baja California. But there is 3,315,000 minors, like kids, just living out on the streets.
In Baja?
In Baja.
Wow.
Like not having like, no, sorry, and this is Mexico. Mexico, yeah. And this is like I just take a step back again and I look at it and I'm like, back in 2004, I was part of those kids. I was part of that statistic with kids living on the streets, not having anything to eat or feed. And that's because like the poverty in Mexico, like sometimes it's like next level and we don't even look at it because we're like in this perfect bubble of like, oh yeah, like if I'm doing my best with my kid, that's enough, you know. But what says that, I don't know, giving up, I had this idea one day of like, I told my mom, I want to go to school and I want to have a pink backpack and I want a Barbie in it, you know. And I just said that. And literally she moved earth and heaven to make that happen, whatever she had to do, honestly. And a few months later, I was in school. And then one day I was just walking to school like a normal day, you know. And this lady screams my name and I look and I saw, and it was one of my mom's friends. And she said, hey, they call me Susana Gusana. So they called me like that when I was a little girl. So she called me like that and I looked and I was like, oh, it's my mom's friend. So I approached her, I went to her. She's like, I have a gift for you. She ran back in her house, came back, and she had like a pink backpack with the Barbie in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you. And she's like, your mom told me that you wanted one, so my daughter just literally wanted to give you hers. And I'm like, oh, thank you. So I'm going to school like with my pink backpack, and I feel like I'm the most happiest girl on earth, you know. Get to my classroom, put it down, and I'm like, oh, I should have put my new backpack in the floor. Like, just put it on my chair, and I'm sitting, and I'm listening to a teacher. I go home, and I tell my mom what happened that day, and she literally felt so happy, even though she was like, I didn't give you that, you know. But I was like, yeah, but your friend did. And she's like, okay, did you say thank you? I'm like, yes. And it was just like, she was always trying to do her best, you know. But sometimes like it's not like I don't know, like sometimes kids just will be happy with a new pair of shoes, or like having a bike, or having something to eat and things like that. And as a society, we're like, oh, but if I have a heart to heart connection, like it will be more than just giving a grocery bag to the family, you know. And seeing that with the kids that come in and out of our daycare program, family care, like they just feel so connected, and we go to visit their families. We're like, your kid is amazing, your kid is all of this, and they just like start crying, and I see their eyes, and I'm like, I can see that you're trying, and I can see that you're actually like, it's costing you to wake up every day at 5 a.m. or like sometimes at 4:30 in the morning, take your kid to the bus stop, go to work, and then come back from work, go to the bus stop again, get your kid, go home, do the homework, make some dinner, put your kid in bed, and do it all over again on the next day. Like, you're doing it. Like, it's so good to see you, and having people like that encourage your heart and your soul to do it. It's like we're seeing it less and less. Like, I've seen it less and less, but in 2004 it was like massive, kids just like out on the streets, you know. But I feel like I literally said one time, like, I know that I'm on the streets now, but this is not forever, you know. Like, it's not gonna be like reality in like a year or a month, even though I didn't know how long it was gonna take. But like, looking back like 20 something years later, I'm like, and I see kids on the streets, I'm like, hey, where's your mom? What's your mom doing? Like, where's your parents? And that's the first thing I ask them, and they're just like, oh, she's right there. I'm like, whoa. And then I just send them back with like this smile on their faces. I'm like, you're doing a good job, don't give up. Like, I was also selling chicles and like tortillas out on the street and cactuses. Like, I was doing all of these things, and they're like, are you serious? How do you do that to like dress the way that you dress? I'm like, keep going, buddy. Like, the secret is to keep going, don't give up. Like, you're doing a good job. And they're like, okay. And then they look at me and they're like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea. But just like encouraging them and connecting with the people, I feel like we see it less and less. But the root of it, I feel like it's the disconnection. The disconnection that they have. Like, my mom had no one to like actually encourage her, or like, hey, let's go this way with your kids and settle down with your kids. She didn't have that figure of her life, like mom or her dad telling her that. So she, again, like, she tried the best that she knew she could.
Yeah, she had no guidance.
Yeah. So I feel like that this connection that she had from her parents, like, it's just like, it was going to take her generation again on the wrong path. But I feel like we found the connection, we found the family, we found a safe place, so we don't have to repeat it again. You know, like, I see my niece and my nephews, and they're like so full of life. You know, like, they don't know what we went through because they're literally landed in the safe place with the safe family, and we don't have to repeat the story all over again. And I see that, and I'm like, thank you for thank you, God, for bringing us to the right place at the right time with the right people. And I don't know, and now I can say I'm super grateful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like the root was the disconnection, and she didn't have someone guiding her. And she just tried her best.
Wow, that's so profound. Okay, well, so as you know, those who are listening and they're like, oh, I want to help with that problem, and I want to help with this. So what can they do? What can people do to help?
I feel like, first of all, like, if people hasn't connect with their own families, like, do that first. Connect, and I just do a text, even though if you're upset with someone, hey, how are you doing? Let's have coffee, let's have a chat, let's go for lunch, let's have brunch, something, like, connect. And even though, like, your connection, you feel like it's not the strongest, like, you're gonna have to do like one step of risk, like taking risks to do that. And honestly, like, there are so many like orphanages in the world, so many foundations, nonprofits, like, all over the place that are trying to like rescue kids, youth, people in general. And I feel like, yeah, everybody's trying to put their seed in the world. And I feel like if you feel that you have like the opportunity to serve one of those places, like I would say go for it. Like you and your family are just taking the risk of going to a place that has no, like, I saw a picture you posted, like there's like nothing in there but like the concrete and some stuff, like,
Yeah.
but their walls are not up yet. Like, take risks to go and invest in it, you know. Like I would say to people that have the finances, what are you doing with that? Like, what are you doing with the things that are in your hands? Like, are you just keeping it for yourself, or are you like actually investing in someone's life? And I would say like take risk and go for it. Even if you don't go like personally to see it, or like if you don't, like, you don't have to take a mission trip to invest in someone's life. Like, you can just like, oh, here's my donation, here's my seed, or like I actually want to partner with you, and like, you know, like we have the sponsorship program, like I actually want to see the website, see what's happening. Like, there's so many organizations around the world that are doing the same thing. Like, find one and connect with one. And like right now I see the kids that I connect with, and I'm like, and they know, like now that they're growing up, like they know, like, hey, I can just text Susy and I know that she will have me over on her house, you know. Like, I know that she will have eggs for me even though she never cooks. I know that she will like get ice cream for me. I know that she will watch a movie and have a great conversation. Like, do that with someone. Like, if you're walking down the street and you see a kid that's like begging for money, like, give them a sweater or give them a hat. And you don't know if you're gonna change someone's life just for taking action on something like that.
Connecting with them.
I remember a couple years ago I was in Romania, and I was like in the city hall, like in the Citadel, where all the tourists go. And they don't allow gypsy kids to be begging out on the streets, because that's like illegal for some areas up there. So I remember I was walking on the street, and out of nowhere it started raining. And you know, like I'm always barefoot sometimes, honestly, because I just like to the dirt. But that day I was wearing shoes, and I'm walking down the Citadel, and I see one of the little girls like begging like outside of the Citadel, and I approach her, and it's raining, and I'm like, hey, how are you doing? And she just went like, oh, I'm just like waiting for food. I'm like, did you get any? And she's like, no, not yet. I'm like, okay. And I go and I see her, and I'm like, where are your shoes? She's like, I don't have any. And I just like took a deep breath, and I'm like, girl. And I was with my friends. We were actually gonna go to eat dinner that day. It was like late night. We're like, okay, let's go take some dinner. And then we see the little girl, and I'm like, guys, let's just change of plans. And they're like, what, Susie? And I'm like, let's invite her to dinner with us. And then we go to the restaurant, and I'm like, she's having a hard time walking. So I take my shoes off, I'm giving them to her, and we just sit at the restaurant, and the girl saw me, the waitress saw me, and she's like, I don't think, she told one of my friends, she's like, we don't allow people without shoes in the restaurant. And she thought I was a gypsy girl.
Because you didn't have shoes on.
Because I didn't have shoes on, and the color of my skin. So I started speaking Spanish. Because I was like, I'm having a conversation with one of my friends, I'm speaking Spanish, and she's like, is she from around here? And she's from Mexico. And I'm like, and then she's like, oh, Mexi. She got so excited. But I was like, you would have done the same thing if it was the girl without shoes, you know? And I was like, okay, we're ordering. And I started like ordering this like pizza like sets, and we're like eating dinner. And then the waitress plays like music, and I noticed the music, and I'm like, oh, I love this song. We started dancing with the little girl, like all my friends and me. And then the waitress starts dancing with us, and we're like having a little party like right there with us in our table. And I felt that moment, I was like, for moments like this to change like little girl's life, or like, I don't know, it could be like 30 minutes, 1 hour. Like, she's gonna remember this for the rest of her life, and she's gonna think like someone actually choose to invite me to their table, take me into the restaurant and pay for my meal, and I didn't have to do anything about it. And at the end, that's what I think of. Like, I didn't have to pay for my plate at dinner here, or the clothes that they were giving me, or the bed that I was sleeping in. Like, it was just totally given to me freely, and I'm like, it doesn't cost anything to me to give my shoes to the little girl, or to feed her, invite her to the restaurant. Like, taking risks to connect with someone, it's, I think, one of the main secrets of success in life for anything. You know, either I don't know, connection could be so in so many different ways, but I will say, if you have the resources in your hands, like, it could be financially, it could be like just inviting someone over to dinner, texting someone like, come over and have like coffee with me. Like, don't forget that connection will be like one of your main like success in life, and also like make you feel good about yourself. Like, oh, I'm like, even though we haven't, like, I don't know, you can be in a fight with someone, member family, and you just take the risk to connect with the person, and everything will change for the rest of their lives, or your life, you know. I don't know, I just feel that. Take the risk to connect.
It's like what Jesus did, right?
Yeah,
That's exactly.
yeah.
That's the life he lived, and that's what you're doing. That's beautiful. Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for taking this time. I know how busy you are, and it's been so inspiring to get to talk to you and to get to learn from you through this internship, really. Just so watching you, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. You're just so loving. You can feel your love everywhere you go. And all the kids are like, Susie, like you said, wherever you go, you can tell, just everyone loves you because you give that love. So thank you so much for letting us get to know you and for this time.
Thank you.
Okay, so I hope you loved that as much as I did. She is so incredible and so wise. If you want to help contribute or learn more about the Mission Orphanage and School, their website is themissioninc.org, and you can learn about the School of Missions, the internships, the week-long experiences you can have there. They are really powerful. They do a really good job. And to learn more about what we're doing and the internship we had there, our experiences, as well as what we're planning to do to help the children in Mexico also, you can visit our website at findyourpathmission.org. And thanks for listening.